House Judiciary Committee Chairman Gerald Nadler on Monday evening said he's preparing to subpoena Attorney General William Barr to compel him to testify about the recent firing of former U.S. Attorney Geoffrey Berman. Nadler said on MSNBC, "We have begun the process to issue that subpoena, we are doing that." Nadler had said his committee would open an investigation into the firing of Mr. Berman, the former U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. Democrats are alleging that the administration is trying to hamper investigations into President Trump or his associates that might have been ongoing or in the works. Representative Jim Jordan, the top Republican on the committee, blasted the move in a letter to Nadler on Monday evening that indicated the subpoena would compel Mr. Barr to testify at a July 2 hearing. Mr. Jordan said Mr. Barr had previously agreed to testify voluntarily at a hearing in March before the meeting was cancelled because of the virus pandemic. He wrote, "Attorney General Barr remains willing to testify voluntarily once the pandemic concludes. Accordingly, there is no legitimate basis for you to compel his testimony at this time." The committee is holding a hearing titled Oversight of the Department of Justice, Political Interference and Threats to Prosecutorial Independence on Wednesday. Mr. Barr on Friday had announced Mr. Berman would step down, but Mr. Berman initially refused to do so. On Saturday, Mr. Berman said he was leaving after Mr. Trump fired him. On Monday, White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany said Mr. Berman was ousted because Jay Clayton, President Trump's pick to replace him, wanted to go back to New York City and the administration wanted to keep Mr. Clayton in the government. She said Mr. Barr was taking the lead on the process but that the president was involved in a sign-off capacity. Mr. Clayton is the current chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission, and prospects for his winning Senate confirmation have already run into roadblocks. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham said he plans to respect the blue slip process for the nomination, where home state senators get informal veto power over nominees. Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer said he would not return a blue slip for Mr. Clayton, and both he and Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, New York Democrat, have called on Mr. Clayton to pull his name from consideration. Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer on Monday demanded the investigation into the corrupt firing of Geoffrey Berman, who was ousted this weekend from serving as the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, which includes Manhattan. Schumer, New York Democrat, sent letters to Justice Department Inspector General Michael Horowitz and the head of the department's Office of Professional Responsibility, Jeffrey Ragsdale, officially requesting a joint review into the matter. Schumer wrote, "I ask that you review the reason for the removal of U.S. Attorney Berman and whether he was removed for partisan political purposes, to influence an investigation or prosecution or to retaliate for his actions in any specific investigation or prosecution." Mr. Berman stepped down from the position Saturday after he was fired by President Trump. Attorney General William Barr late Friday sought to fire Mr. Berman but he refused to leave, setting up a brief standoff between his office and the Department of Justice. Democrats, including Schumer, have alleged Mr. Berman was ousted to undercut investigations his office is conducting into Mr. Trump and some of his associates. Schumer wrote, "As the Attorney General was not truthful when he initially represented that U.S. Attorney Berman was stepping down, this corrupt firing cannot be explained by cause and gives the impression that the president interfered in ongoing criminal investigations into himself and his associates. To help restore confidence in and prevent further abuses to the administration of justice, the American people deserve to know the truth." Schumer cited in the letter similar investigations in 2006 during President George W. Bush's second administration, when several U.S. attorneys said they were forced to resign by senior Justice Department officials. The investigation ultimately turned up no wrongdoing. Schumer said, "At the conclusion of that investigation, your offices found that the removal of these U.S. attorneys and the controversy it created severely damaged the credibility of the Department of Justice and raised doubts about the integrity of department prosecutive decisions.